So today I will begin to speak a little bit of P6 and its dynamic. I will not show you the explicit formula. I will do that tomorrow. Okay, so yesterday, I just recall briefly, yesterday I explained you that the beginning of the story is a representation of the free Brook of rank 3 into a SL2 to two matrix with trace 0. I explain how to parameterize the space of representation using the free cubic here. Okay. Okay, I recall the notation. The EL is the eigenvalues of the matrices at each singular point. Okay, I see that. Okay, and yesterday I stopped, I think, at this point. So I look at the space of representation from the fundamental group of the 4 punctured sphere. Here are the 4 punctures. In SL2, modulo this discussion modulo equivalence of representations. And then if you move a little bit, you know you have 4 punctures. I move a little bit this one, this T. So I move a little bit. So I have, for instance, 2 values of T, T1 of T2, and you have canonical isomorphism in some sense. There is, you can move, P1 can be considered as locally constant. And geometrically, this says that the space of representation, it can be interpreted as the local system of varieties, of cubic varieties, cubic surface, parameterized by T. Okay, okay. Just some word about braids. Now I take a more general case, I take the 4 punctures. These points are 2 by 2 distinct. And before it was 0, T, 1, infinity, so it is the general case. And then you can move this point. And such a move is a pass on this configuration space. And a braid is a continuous path on the configuration space from a configuration to itself up to the ordering. And a pure braid, I am interested especially in pure braid. A pure braid is a continuous loop. That is when you go back with the same configuration, the same order. Okay, and then you can interpret the choice of T, you can interpret this way, that giving you a configuration. So you get such a map. And this is a free pure braids. So here you have a puncture of braids. And here you have a picture of pure braids and loop, corresponding loop on the configuration space. And now I return to the space of representation. It can be interpreted as a local system above a basis above braids. So if you look at the fundamental group of the basis, it will operate of the fiber, it will operate on the cubic surface. This is an interpretation of the dynamic of Penve equation on the other side, on the right side of Riemann-Hilbert map. Okay, now I will describe more precisely P6. You know, P6 is the basic examples, and as was explained later, all the Penve equation can be interpreted by confluence from P6. So in some sense, P6 contain, if you are able to look, you have the good vesicles, then you can extract everything from P6. So it's very important to understand P6. So P6 is this a little bit awful nonlinear second order equations. And the singular points are 0, 1, infinity, are the fixed singularities. And the other singularities are poles. And of course, any solution can be analytically continuous to a meromorphic function on the universal covering, on this universal covering. Okay, and for generic values of the integration constant, the claim, the fundamental Painlevé claim was that a solution cannot be expressed via elementary or classical transcendental function. It's called irreducibility of Painlevé 6 equation. And for these reasons, Painlevé said I have discovered new transcendental functions. So this idea appeared for the first time in Painlevé leçon de Stockholm. Oh. Didn't work. And the first, the algebraization of this notion is due to Japanese school at the end of the 90s, Nishioka, Umemura, Watanabe. And so the proof, the first proof of this claim of Painlevé, it's an algebraic proof. But in fact, at the time, at the beginning, Painlevé said it is a new transcendental function, and I will prove that, and in order to prove that, I will use the theory of Dirac, his colleague Dirac. At that time, at the end of the 19th century, in his thesis, an enormous thesis, Jules Dirac proposed, at that time there was a quite solid definition of differential Galois group for linear equation by Picard. And in his thesis, Jules Dirac proposed a big extension to nonlinear equations. And Painlevé said, okay, I'll start from Dirac thesis and I will prove that I have introduced new transcendental functions. And fortunately, the proposed proof by Painlevé for P1 has some gaps. And worse, the theory, the Dirac theory, has a lot of gaps. So it was until recently with Malgrange, Umemura pseudo-group that it's possible to go back to the original idea of Painlevé and to correct his proof following his idea, his original idea. And so the modern formulation of P6 use deformation of linear equations. So you start from trussless systems of linear differential equation with 4 function singularities. It's better to write in terms of system. You also can write in terms of, like in some Okamoto works, you can work with the ordinary differential equation. In that case, you have to add an apparent singularity. So it's clear, it's better to work with systems. Okay, so you have such systems. I denote theta 0, theta t, and so on, the double of eigenvalues. They do not depend on t. So this encodes the local monodromy data. Okay, then we have explained yesterday, you start from a fundamental system, you follow a path, you go back, and you get the linear monodromy transformation and the representation of the fundamental group into SL2. And the equivalence class depends, of course, only on the homotopy class. And the system is, say, isomonodromic if this conjugation class is locally constant when you move t. Okay, this is really the main idea. This is the idea of Richard Fuchs. Okay, now you can, you have some arbitrary shows. So meromorphic, you can start from such a meromorphic system, and then you can perform a rational change of unknown function. So it's called gauge equivalence. It is this formula B expressed from A. And so it's the equivalence. Of course, the monodromy representations are equivalent, so you can replace system by systems up to rational gauge equivalence essentially the equivalent to the connection like in Philippe talk. And Schlesinger, I don't remember the year, found that the isonormy condition is equivalent to having this supplementary linear differential equation. So I call the Schlesinger system this coupled system with A and B. And the isonormy condition is equivalent to the complete integrability of this system. That is this formula 7, this one. And you can explicit this, Schlesinger explicit this condition, and then you get the Schlesinger equation, which are nonlinear equation, the nonlinear differential system, and the unknown are the coefficients of the free matrix A0, A1, AT, A1. 9 scalar functions. So you look at the general version. You have an extension of this picture. I will not speak of that. Yeah, it's Schlesinger. He was son-in-law of Lazarus Fuchs, the father of Richard Fuchs. Was a family. Okay, now I start from the Schlesinger system, and I explain quickly how to derive P6. And I put genericity condition. Okay, and then I suppose that the matrices are semi-simple. Okay, and from Schlesinger equation, you see that the matrix at infinity is constant. So you can suppose by a gauge transformation, a constant gauge transformation, you can suppose that it is in this form, diagonal matrix. Okay. And now you have this trick of the Miwa-Jimbo. You will take this function Q as a parameter. So we extract from the entry of all these matrices, you define this function Q. And this function Q is, in fact, an apparent singularity of the second order linear differential equation satisfied by the first component of the system. So, in fact, it will give you an equivalence between a system and an ordinary differential equation, but then you have to add, an apparent singularity. And in fact, the function appearing in Painlevé equation is the position of the apparent singularity. And now, thinking in symplectic terms, the conjugate variable of Q is P, and P is defined like that. And now the Schlesinger system is equivalent to Hamiltonian system. It's this idea began with Malmquist and so on, and it was systematized by Kazuo Okamoto. Okay, and then you can write this Hamiltonian system in P6 terms. And now the parameters, the original parameter in P6 Painlevé equation, they are expressed in terms of this local monodromy exponent. Okay, oh, there is a mistake. It's 0, 1, it's 1. Okay, then you have this, you can express, you have this Hamiltonian vector field. This is Painlevé Hamiltonian vector field. And now the Riemann-Hilbert correspondence is the map between the space of linear system or linear connection between systems up to gauge equivalence with prescribed pole and local exponents on one side, the left side, and on the right side you have the space of monodromy representation. Okay. And now this Riemann-Hilbert correspondence, you can translate it into a correspondence between solution of P6 on one side, on the right side, and on the left side, excuse me, and solution and Modrori representation on the right side. Okay, now this Okamoto space of initial condition. So, of course, if you look at the Painlevé equation, you have a naive space, a naive phase space if C2. This one is not so nice because the solution of poles. So you follow a solution, and sometimes you get a pole, and this solution disappears at infinity. So it's not a so good picture. So the idea in fact, of Raymond Gérard at the beginning of the story in Strasbourg, following the idea of Painlevé, he was to perform blow-up in order to get a complete flow, no longer poles. Just like, you know, you have this example of Riccati equation. For Riccati equation, you start on phase space with this C. So you add a point at infinity, and then the solution, you have a complete flow. It's the same idea. For Riccati, it's evident. For Painlevé, it's not evident. It's not evident because you have to perform 9 blow-up. It's a lot of computation, of heavy computation, but it works. And using this idea, Kazuo Okamoto introduced a good space of initial condition. Okay, so it's not compact. It's an open rational surface. It's a partial compactification. And this Okamoto variety is endowed with an algebraic symplectic structure. You get it by extension of the standard symplectic form on C2, dp wedge dq. And now if you look at the compactification of algebraic variety with the compactification of the Okamoto variety, the pole divisor is an anti-canonical divisor. And what is missing, the vertical leaves, it's described today by an extended Dynkin diagram. And here you have the picture of the lines and the dual diagram. And today there is a picture, a similar picture for all the Painlevé equations. It's why in the literature they are described, they are labeled by their Dynkin diagrams. Okay, now so you have this map from the Okamoto variety of initial condition to the space of representation. So this picture works in, excuse me?
Yeah, I have a question. Since the variety is not compact,
yes.
In which way the flow is complete? You are sure that it does?
No, the variety is not complex. You have the basis. Okay, and this one is not compact, but you have a flow which is transversal. If you remove this point, and you take a generic point, and then you have a fiber, and each fiber is an initial condition of Okamoto, and the flow is transversal.
So it's a theorem that has to be proved.
Yeah.
And that's what Okamoto basically
Yeah.
proves. Flat
With this semi-compactification, you get transversality. With a nice space, it's not transversal. Okay. No, it was the original idea in Lausanne, coming from Lausanne, Stockholm. Okay, that's a picture. Okay, so you have the picture of the flow, of the Painlevé flow. So this Painlevé flow will induce the isomorphism, analytic isomorphism between each space of initial condition on one side, and other side you get analytic maps that is analytic, not algebraic. Analytic isomorphism between algebraic variety. Okay, so it is a general situation. It corresponds to irreducible representation. If you want a more general picture, it's more complicated. And this map, this Riemann-Hilbert map, is no longer an isomorphism. It is a proper map. You have singular fibers. Okay, so in the case of the smooth cubic surface, it's nice. It is an isomorphism. If it's possible that the cubic surface has singular point, then in that case, this map is no longer bijective. It's proper. The inverse image of a point is compact. Here you have the picture. So in fact, the Riemann-Hilbert is no longer bijective. In fact, it's the minimal resolution of singularity of the character variety of the cubic surface. And then you have this example. And this corresponds on the Penleve side, it corresponds to special solution with the Riccati solutions. It's exceptional. It's not so. I will mainly speak of the good case, the generic case. Okay. Okay, and now, as I explained before, you get from this Riemann-Hilbert map, you get, using the braids, you get a dynamic on P6. So the fundamental group of the basis on the right side acts on the fiber. It acts algebraically. Okay, so you have a cubic surface, a smooth cubic surface, and you get algebraic map from the cubic surface onto itself. Okay, so we will not detail that today. I will return to that tomorrow, I hope. And then it's possible to write the formula, very quadratic formula, very simple, explicitly. So you get on the character variety, you get a very explicit dynamic. And you can compute everything. In particular, you can prove that this dynamic is chaotic. So if you look on the other side, you have an analytic isomorphism, not algebraic, but analytic. On the original side, for the true Penleve equation, you have a dynamic. It's analytic. It's no longer algebraic. We have not formula, but you can prove that also that it is analytic. Okay, so generically, P6 is chaotic. So it's a little bit strange because in literature, it's called integrable equation. So it's an integrable equation, perhaps, but the dynamic is not far to be integrable. It's chaotic. And in particular, you can use this business to compute the Galois-Malgrange groupoid of P6. Okay, now I will have to shift. Okay, now this is the first picture of P6. I will return to that, I hope, tomorrow. But now, starting from this first picture of P6, you can say, what about the other Penleve equations? That is P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. And 8 years ago, in a conference in Wuhan, China, I presented a program. And this program was to extend the result I just described for P6, to extend them in some sense to all the Penleve equations. Okay, this is, at that time there was no virus in Wuhan. We changed I have to change the file, sorry. Okay, now I will explain you the big lines of this program. So is the second file. Okay. Okay, so the first steps, I just described roughly how to get a natural dynamic on the cubic of P6, of the smooth cubic of P6. So the first idea now is to define natural dynamic on the wild character variety of each point wave equation. I recall you what is a wild character variety. You replace ordinary representation by wild representation, that is adding Stokes multiplier and things like that. And then you get a new cubic for each equation. And now the problem is to define a natural dynamic on this new cubic. And the basic idea, if yesterday on the very simple example of Euler equation, I explained you that there exists, in the linear case, there exists a natural dynamic. This dynamic is generated by the modromy, by the Stokes multiplier, and by some continuous part which is exponential torus. The idea is to try to do the same business, but replacing linear equation by a non-linear point wave equation. Okay. And as I described later, then if you dream the existence of such a dynamic, for reasons that I will explain in more details later, this dynamic, if you look on the cubic surface, this dynamic is local at some point. So you get a nonlinear local dynamic on the cubic surface. And so the first claim is that, it's complicated. First claim is that no, this dynamic is not only local. In fact, it can be extended in a rational dynamic. No longer algebraic like in physics. Such is life, you have poles, but it's rational. Okay, and then there are relations with Lagrange grouping. And the next step is possible confluence from the dynamic according to the confluence scheme of point wave equation. We start with point wave. Okay, so at that time everything was well known for physicists, is what I just described before. And the program was a natural generalization. But at that time, almost everything, even the basic definition of the dynamic and things like that, everything was conjectural. So then, after some time, a long time, then it's better. I recall briefly the wild dynamic of linear meromorphic ordinary differential equations. It's general, it's not only for P1. This picture is coming from, is for torus, coming from a paper of Witten. So in general, you have singular points like that, and in general, you have singular essential singularities. So at each n singularity, you add to the modromy, you add the Stokes multiplier in some sense. And you do that at each singular point. And unfortunately, it's not like for ordinary topological case. Now, like you see in this picture of Witten, it's no longer a group, it is a groupoid. You have to add pass from one singular point to the other. So in this picture, you see W is such a link. Okay, it's only a technical problem, but it's important. Also, you can put in this representation this exponential torus, the rescaling of the exponential appearing in the problem. And now you can replace this notion of isomorphic deformation by the notion of iso-irregular deformation. And it is an old idea of Garnier in 1919. Okay. Okay, so I just explained for linear equation, you can replace this modromy representation by the wild modromy representation. And for the Penfield equation, you will replace this representation by nonlinear wild modromy representation. So it will happen complicate things in the complicated essential singularities. Okay, and today it's possible to define that completely rigorously using the work of Amaury Bittman. I will explain that tomorrow. Okay, so now you get a wild Riemann-Hilbert map between the Okamoto space of initial condition and a cubic surface. This one is no longer, this one is generically smooth, but if you look at infinity, you get singularity. It was not the case for P6. As I explained before, the wild dynamics exist locally on the Okamoto variety of initial condition, and conjugating with Riemann-Hilbert map, you get symplectic local dynamic on the wild character variety. So one of my main conjectures was that this local dynamic can be extended into rational dynamic. And in fact, you have a stronger conjecture now, is the fact that this rational dynamic move algebraically with the parameters. So that is, in some sense, on the right side, everything is algebraic. All the family, in some sense, is algebraic. Okay, just some word, just very, very rough picture about what is the Galois-Malgrange groupoid. So what the slogan of Malgrange is, he says that my groupoid is what algebra sees from the dynamic. You have a dynamical system like a Pinch-Wave equation, and you look to it. Looking to it, you can allow only to use algebraic tools. Analysis is forbidden. So what you see, how you can translate that abstractly. Okay, and formally the idea, Malgrange idea, is to take the Zariski closure of the dynamics. Okay, the idea is you take the dynamics, you take the jets, all the jets of the dynamic at some order. And this picture, if you fix the order of jets, you have an algebraic object. And you take the projective limit of all these dynamics, of jet of dynamics. And you can do, in some sense, a huge Zariski closure, infinite dimensional Zariski closure of this thing. This is the groupoid. It's a complicated business. Okay, and now some points today they remain conjectural. That is, the wild dynamic of the Pinch-Wave equation are made of solution of the Malgrange groupoid. For linear equation, it's a theorem. It's a theorem that I proved some years ago. But here it's not yet proved for Pinch-Wave. The observation, the idea is that the wild dynamic is rich, it's complicated, then it obliges the Malgrange groupoid to be big. And the idea is that generically, the conjecture is that generically is a groupoid conserving only the volume, the biggest possible groupoid with symplectic symmetry. Okay, and there are many results in this direction, but it's not yet proved. Okay, some words about the general philosophy. Okay, what is the philosophy of the Riemann-Hilbert map? So on one side you will have connection, on the other side you have monodromy representation or wild connection or essential connection, wild monodromy representation. And you have a map which is very transcendental. But there are equivalence of category. Some abstract level, they are similar. The sides are similar. So the idea is that it's similar to the plateau caves. You have we are living in the actual world. The situation in the actual world, everything is difficult. But this world reflects an ideal world. The plateau is the plateau cave. You see, you have here we are the prisoners in the cavern, and then we are looking only image of the ideal world. This is the picture. So we are living on the actual world, but there is an algebraic ideal world. So the ideal world is the world of things living on character varieties, dynamic on character varieties, and even confluence at the level of character varieties. So the idea is to say, okay, I will describe, I am interested, of course, in the concrete world, in the actual world, but I will describe, I will try to describe the ideal world. Okay, and the idea is the general picture. Today is not everything proved, but I think we have the main, some partial result, and the main idea is, the idea is that this plateau world for Palmway equation, this ideal world, is completely algebraic. No longer analysis is finished. Goodbye analysis. In this here, the ideal world, you have a family, algebraic family of cubic surfaces. On this cubic surface, we have rational dynamics. And then you have confluence of picture. And what replaces confluence of picture is birational, some specific birational transformation. Okay, so, and it's not finished. We have a lot of partial results, but we hope that at the end, this world in this world, you can compute absolutely everything with explicit and simple, in fact, formula. Of course, in the actual world, the situation is more difficult because this ideal world is a reflection of the actual world by Riemann-Hilbert map, and Riemann-Hilbert map is complicated. It's highly transcendental. But anyway, you can extract some. For instance, one of the ideas is that all the generic Palmway equations are all chaotic. That you can prove looking at the dynamic in the ideal world. Okay. So here is a classification. You know, in the original Palmway equation, you have 6 Palmway equations. In fact, if you label the equation with using the description of Okamoto variety of initial condition, what are the structure of the missing lines at infinity, this anti-canonical divisor, then you have a more refined classification of Palmway equation. And here is this classification. Okay. I will, after that, I will detail the case of P2. And you know, of P2, you have 2 models. You have 2 models. It depends of the linearization of the model. One is Newell-Flaschka, and the other is Miwa-Jimbo. So, in fact, I will use Newell-Flaschka linearization. Oh, here you have the table of the character variety of all the Palmway equation. It's come from a paper by Chekhov, Mazoko, Rubtsov. There is a mistake, so you have to permute the 2 models of P2. So Newell-Flaschka model of P2, or is P2? My model is, you have to permute these 2 models. So I will use this model. Where is it? Okay, and now fundamental heuristic ideas that I will use now. And this is completely new, apparently, as I will explain, is in some sense evident, but it seems that it was not noticed before. I don't know why. So this idea is that in order to understand the dynamic and the wild dynamic and the character variety and the confluence mechanism, it is absolutely really essential to look at the line on the surface and the configuration. So in some sense, to the skeleton of the surface. So you have the classicals for P6, real models. So, you know, the idea is sort of Mikado games. You have lines. You start from P6. You have 27 lines. You have 3 lines at infinity. So it remains 24 lines. And so we will play Mikado with these lines. So the first step, that is to go from P6 to P5, according to an idea of Martin Klimes. What will you do? Will remove a line, just like in Mikado. And what is removing a line? Removing a line is to blow down the line. And in fact, you blow down a line, the line is cutting infinity. There is a point at infinity. You blow down the line onto a point at infinity, so it disappears from the picture, just like Mikado. Okay, so the basic idea is that you have general mechanism of confluence for Penvey equation. On the right side, on the Plateau ideal world, it is removing sticks. Okay. So this is a picture of a non-smooth surface, and this surface, it appears from particular case of P6, and also it occurs, as I explained afterwards, it appears also from some particular P2 case. So you say it's typical, you have A1, you have 4 A1 singularity. Okay, so this is the confluence scheme of Penvey equation. It's not the original confluence scheme of Penvey-Okamoto, but it's a refined confluence scheme using the refined description of the family. Okay, so as I explained, this Mikado game is to describe this confluence scheme using, on the right side, using purely only algebraic geometry, that is using some special birational transformation. And today there is a paper by Martin Klims which explains in detail this confluence from P6 to P5. And with Martin and Emmanuel Paul in Toulouse, now we are writing a paper to describe this confluence.
Is always the blowdown of a line?
It is always the?
Blowdown
Yes,
of
it's
a line?
always a blowdown of line. Yes, it's always a blowdown.
Of one line.
Of one line. So we are writing a paper on this. I think we understand, we have understood this confluence. And the hope, you know, the hope is to, as I explained now, this model of P2. On this model, you cannot really understand a lot of very interesting things. It's very clear. So this case is very nice. Newell, Flashka, Penvey 2. And so the idea is to derive, so for this model we can describe everything, but we have only partial proof. And the idea is to prove everything by confluence. Okay, so what we are trying to do now is to do this confluence, to follow this path. Afterwards, of course, it will be nice to understand all the picture. Okay, I will have to it's not finished. Just change the slide. You have to suffer a little more. Is this a good one? Excuse me? I am not sure.
2-1.
It's 2-1, okay.
The cubic surface.
No, it's 1-3.
1-3.
1-3. So it's 1-3.
Yeah,
1. Yes, this one. It's better to begin with this case. Okay. Okay, now I will spend the remaining time today, okay?
Stupid question. So it's when you go from P6 to P5,
Yes?
you blow down a line, and
Yes.
it's not important which of the lines they are all.
No. Excuse me, I will return to that tomorrow. There is, you have to, you know, if you take a projective smooth cubic surface, you have 27 lines, and they are similar. There is a symmetry, okay? But if you look at Penvey, you have to distinguish free line at infinity and introduce a dissymmetry between the line. And the choice of the line is special. I will describe that too. It's important. Okay. So now, today, in the remaining time, I will speak only of P2. We cannot detail everything, but it is the plan, and you can look at the missing details on the slide. So it's a model of Flaška-Newell, as I will explain. Okay, this is the second Pelvé equation. So for the second Pelvé equation, you have only one parameter, alpha. And so it can be linearized. And in this model that I use now today, the Flaška-Newell model, the deformed linear equation, then it admits 6 Stokes matrix at infinity, but in fact there are only 3 parameters. That is typically the Stokes matrices are unipotent, so you need only one parameter, S1, S2, S3. And when you know S1, S2, S3, the other are immediate at minus S1, minus S2, minus S3 on the other side, things like that. Okay, and now the character variety is the relation between the Stokes parameter, and this relation is cubic, like that. And then, and the alpha, the parameter alpha in the equation, it corresponds to the homodromy at 0. Yes?
This model is without the singularity at 0.
Yeah, you have 2 models.
Yeah.
Miwa-Jimbo is without singularity at 0. But if you...
This one, the symmetric one with singularity at 0.
Yeah, this one is one singularity at 0, and the singularity at 0 is regular singular, and the homodromy is computed with alpha. So in this model, the alpha represents the homodromy at 0. Okay, so you have this cubic equation. And this equation is parameterized, the family equation is parameterized by the homodromy at 0. Okay, then you can, okay. It's perhaps important to notice that also, like for P6 you have special case, Riccati equation, and so on. Here is the same business. You have special case depending on the choice of alpha. And a particular case is the case with alpha is 1 over 2 modulo z. So if it's not the case, then the cubic is smooth. It's smooth, but not the projective cubic. If you look at infinity, then you have free singularity of type A1, of type A1. But if alpha is equal to 1 over 2 modulo z, then you have a new singularity at finite distance. So you have 4 A1 singularity. It is the Cayley surface I showed you before. Okay, so an important ingredient of P2 is this order-free symmetry. So it's very elementary. You replace, you act Z3 acts on the picture, and Z3 acts on the set of solutions. It's a very elementary formula. And it is not trivial, but completely trivial, but its action extends on the Okamoto variety of initial conditions. Okay, and also the symmetry of order 3 acts on the character variety, is simply the permutation of the coordinates. Of course, you have the symplectic structure, always a Poincaré residue formula. Okay. And the symplectic structure also is symmetric by the symmetry of order 3. Okay, and this model, this Flash-Carney-Well model, it came from isoirregular deformation of lax pairs, as I explained for P6. So the Penlevé equation, Penlevé-2 equation, translate the compatibility condition of this lax pair. Okay. Perhaps I will skip that system. Okay. And now here are the explicit formula of Flash-Carney-Well, just with some small change of notation. So I adopt the notation of Hitz, Kapayev, Kitayev, and so on. So here you have the formula of the lax pair, for the lax pair. In fact, for abstract reason, you have it's better to consider two systems replacing alpha by minus alpha. Okay, and the exponential appearing in the system is exponential of Q, this formula. Here you have the Stokes matrices at infinity of the linear systems. Okay, so you have the 6 Stokes matrices. In fact, knowing 3, you know the 6 because you use symmetries. And then the relation is yesterday I explained that you have this relation between the product of the Stokes multiplier, the formal monodromy, the actual monodromy. Here the formal monodromy is trivial, so the product of the 6 Stokes is equal to the monodromy at 0. You express that, you compute the thing, and then you get the relation. Okay, this is a picture of the 6 Stokes multipliers. Okay, and now what is for me very important are the lines on the character varieties. If you look at the compactification of the character variety, you have 12 lines. So you have 3 lines at infinity, so at finite distance it remains 9 lines. Okay. And here you have the equation of these 9 lines. Okay, so you have quartic equation and a linear equation. You cut a quartic and a cubic, or a plane in the cubic, and you get, in that case, in the first 3 cases, you get 2 lines, and 1 line in the other case. You have 3 nodal singularities at infinities. And then you know these x, z equal 1 and so on, it gives you 6 lines. And the other x equals 0 and so on give you 3 lines. So in fact, the line, you divide that into connected components, not yet, not really, but in 2 parts. First part is an hexagon, a non-planar hexagon, and also you have also a triangle. Okay, and now you look at the intersection of the line. You have this hexagon picture. And then you have 6 points. And also you have the triangle picture. You have 6 special points, and here you have 3 special points. So you have 9 special points. Now I will describe what is the significance for Penlevé-2 of these points. The line and the point, they correspond to special solutions that we can identify using asymptotic properties of the solution of P2. And the tools are algebraic asymptotic, summability, resurgence, and also Boutroux, Tronqué, and Tritronqué solutions picture. And now in order to describe this picture, I will use heavily the Russian works, Alexander Hitz, Kapayev, Kitayev, Novokhenov. They use what they call Riemann-Hilbert method, Dave, Zhu, theory and so on. It's really a complicated work, but the results are very simple. The results are nearly very simple. So I use simply that. And using that, I can understand very clearly what is happening on the skeleton. What are the dynamic? You know, I am searching for dynamic, a wild dynamic. Using that, I can describe the dynamic on the skeleton. Okay, and then the next step is to put some flesh on the skeleton and to understand what is happening in all the picture. Okay, now it is interesting also to look at all the pictures. That is, the three lines at infinity, the 6 lines, the 3 lines, and what is the configuration. And in particular, each line of the hexagon cut one of the line of the triangle. So you get 6 new points. Okay, you have 9 points and then 6 new points. Each one has a signification, but the signification of these points is different. Okay. So what about the solution of P2? Now I return to the real equation of P2, the nonlinear differential equation. So in the complex plane, time plane T, you have 6 XOR at infinity. And so I start from the old mathematics, for the old work of Boutroux. And there are 2 very easy and complicated papers by Boutroux. And Boutroux says that. He says, in general, the asymptotic in each sector of solution is elliptic. That is, in general, you have poles everywhere, and poles accumulate at infinity. So standard, in general, you have no standard asymptotics. But what is interesting is that there are some exceptional solutions that Boutroux called tronqué, tritronqué, and bitronqué. And for this solution, for this special solution, it exists classical asymptotic in some sector. In the remaining part, you have accumulation of poles, but in some sector, it's nice, and we have classical Poincaré asymptotics. Okay, and what the work of Richard and Scholes say, roughly speaking, is all the asymptotics of the classical asymptotic of this exceptional solution, they are explicitly parameterized by the Stokes data. And I explained before, the proofs are difficult, but the results are simple. It's simple to state the result. Okay, and it's also possible to prove such thing using other techniques like K-summability, Écalle resurgence, and so on. Okay, so I have not a nice picture of P2, so I take a picture of P1 for Marcel Wong. So for P1 is 5 symmetry, no longer 3 symmetry, but the picture is the same. And here you have this Boutroux tronqué and tritronqué. You know, this one is a tritronqué. You know, in this sector, you have classical asymptotics, and in this sector, you have accumulation of poles. Here you are, after at the center, you have the picture of the tronqué solution. So in one sector, one of the 5 sectors, you have ordinary asymptotics. Asymptotics not to a Power series, but to a Puiseux Power series. And at the left, you have the general case. And in the general case, you have only elliptic asymptotic, no longer ordinary asymptotics. And the picture is the same for P2. This is a picture for a truncated solution. Okay, and now sometimes I will explain is that you remember you have these six points and these 3 points. You have 9 points. These 9 points, they correspond to, by Riemann-Hilbert, inverse map, they correspond to tritronqué. The maximal number of a nice sector. Okay, this is the Russian orientation table. You know, if all these parameters, that is the Stokes multiplier, one in fact minus with my coordinate, if in each sector the two are non-zero, then you have no ordinary asymptotics. So in order to get asymptotics, ordinary asymptotic, one of these parameters, that is the variable or the gradient, must be zero. Okay, and then if you go back to Boutroux, following Boutroux, it's easy to check the only possible classical asymptotics. You take a Puiseux series, you plug into, and you check. For P2, it's trivial. For instance, for P5, it's difficult, but for P2, it's trivial. Okay, so you plug the asymptotics, and you discover that the only possible asymptotics are this square, this ramified Puiseux series, or this ordinary Puiseux series. I skip the case, the particular case alpha equals 0 modulo z. This corresponds to, you know, just a word, what happened for particular value of alpha. If alpha is 1 over 2 modulo z, then the hexagon degenerates in three lines. It is a Riccati-Airy case. And if alpha is 0 modulo z, then the triangle degenerates in three lines. It's a star point on the surface, Eckart point. This corresponds to the existence of rational solution, a very special case. So I skip this case. I look only the generic case. So in this generic case, you plug, you get the fact that you get the only possible dominant term for the asymptotic, classical asymptotic as this one, and then you plug into, and recursively you compute the coefficients, and you get what physicists call perturbative series solution. You get Puiseux or Puiseux solution of the solution, and these solutions are divergent. They are divergent, but they are summable. Okay, so you can recover the actual solution by summations. And of course, the sum are solution of P2. Okay, and now also Boutroux discovered that you have other interesting family of solutions, that is one parameter solutions. So formally, you can represent this solution by, you start from the Puiseux series, and then you add a non-perturbative term, what in École terminology is a trans series. In physicist terminology, it is one instanton solution, and so on. And here you have the formula. So you have the formula in the case of the first line is the case of the hexagon, and the second line is the case of the triangle. So you start from a point, the intersection of two lines, and then you get one line with such formula. And you see this line is parameterized by this complex constant C. And now in this expression, you have this exponential, and here you have this coefficient, and these coefficients are power series, I mean, Puiseux power series, and all these power series are summable. Tomorrow I will explain why. Okay, so you know in a sector, if you look at the sector of decay of the exponential, then you can sum the coefficients, and then you can sum trivial, ordinary analysis, you can sum the series, and you get one parameter of actual solutions. Okay, and now using using the Russian work, and really, this is very easy to explain, but the work is difficult. It's difficult to prove that the Riemann-Hilbert map from such a line to a line on the cubic, this map is affine. And you can compute it explicitly. Okay. And so, okay, you have explicit formula. So now you can, I'm looking to a dynamic. Now I have the dynamic on the skeleton that is on these 9 lines. It's explicitly computed. So I know the dynamic on the line, and in particular, I know the action of the exponential torus. You have 9 exponential torus. You have 9 dynamics. You have 9 exponential torus. Exponential torus is, I go back, exponential torus is rescaling of each exponential. So rescaling of an exponential is the same thing that the rescaling C. Okay, so this is the formula. So I have all the dynamic. Okay, so just very, very quickly, this is the generic dynamic. For generic solution, it's not you have no usual asymptotics, but you have Voutron asymptotics using this business. Just it exists, you can check on the slide. Perhaps I will do some comments later, but okay, and now just I will stop, but just before I will explain now. Now I will explain. I just say that all these Power series coefficients are summable, but of course it's not trivial. How to prove such a thing? For P1, there exists proof by different people, for instance, by Delabert or Ovidiu Costin. It's proof by quite a classical analysis, but it's quite difficult and so easy to understand what is happening and so on. So I will propose a completely different approach. So now I will explain how to prove that, and also how to prove the existence of these wild dynamics by summability arguments. Okay, so I will just, in 5 minutes, explain the principle, and tomorrow I will detail. Okay, so in general, it's for Penrose equation that's essential singularity. Recently, a young Japanese mathematician, Shiba, introduced orbifold compactification of all the Penrose equations. And for the situation is different for P5, P6, P5, P3. And on the other side, you have P4, P2, P1. And for P4, P2, P1, the Shiba method, by the Shiba method, you get weight projective space. So you can compactify. The Penrose equation using family, using the space of the solution, using orbifold compactification. So using that, you can understand what is happening at infinity, and then you can look at infinity, and the Shiba method is looking at infinity, then he recovers the Kamoto variety of initial condition at finite distance, but also at infinity, he can analyze the essential singularities. And the essential singularities, they appear in each, you have maps, and each map at infinity, you get an autonomous Hamiltonian vector fields. And the essential singular points, they appear at the stationary point of this Hamiltonian vector field. Okay, so, the idea is that you have performed some blow up at infinity, and then you get some plane at infinity with things like that. So it's dimension 2 things with a symplectic structure and a Hamiltonian system. And then you have the time, the transversal time. So it's a classical solution of Penleve. And then you can look at infinity. You can interpret that of a family of Hamiltonian system with a degenerated fiber at infinity. Okay, so you are in dimension 3, C goes 2. And then you can interpret that at this singularity at infinity, the singularity of this Hamiltonian system, each singularity. You can interpret that as a saddle node. Okay, you have classical saddle node. Dimension 2. So you look now, saddle node not in dimension 2, but in dimension 3. And the transversal is no longer dimension 1, it's dimension 2. In dimension 2, but with symplectic structure. Okay, so you can interpret that as a symplectic saddle node. So you have 3 eigenvalues, 0, lambda, minus lambda. And this situation is a little bit terrible because, you know, the linearization case of Poincaré, you ask a nice condition of the spectrum. Here, the spectrum is extremely bad because you have a double resonance. You have the 0 eigenvalue, so it's a classical saddle node, it's 1 resonance, but you have also a resonance due to Hamiltonian structure, lambda and minus lambda. So you have a double resonance. Okay, so the problem is to understand what is happening in a dynamical system and how you can normalize and understand such dynamical system in the doubly resonance case. Tomorrow I will explain how to do that.
Questions, comments?
Yeah?
What is the space that Chiba is compactifying? Dimension 3.
Excuse me?
Which space is Chiba compactifying?
Oh, the space, you know, at the beginning, the Penleve equation lives on C3.
Okay, so it's the time and the fiber.
The time and the fiber.
Okay.
It's okay. When you do that, you can recover. So it's you use not only blow up but ramified blow up, like Briot et Bouquet, and then you put things at infinity. And using one singularity at infinity, you recover initial variety of Okamoto. And at infinity, you have this Hamiltonian, and you get essential singularity.
So is the form of the Hamiltonian for Penleve 6 in the variables of the cubic? Is it known, the explicit formula of the Hamiltonian?
Yes, everything is known.
So it's a polynomial.
Yes, everything is polynomial. Mainly Japanese, they work only Okamoto with polynomial.
And then the explicit form of this polynomial gives different importance for the different lines.
Yes.
Any more? So let's thank Jean-Pierre.